Ever felt that nagging whisper of anxiety, that relentless pull of control you can't quite grasp? We all have. But what if the secret to true peace, to unwavering strength, wasn't found in gripping tighter, but in letting go? This isn't about passive surrender. It's about unlocking an ancient power, a profound partnership that transforms every challenge into an opportunity, every fear into faith. Today we journey into the heart of Tawakkul, the true art of trusting Allah, to reclaim your serenity, your purpose, and your unbreakable connection to the divine. Many people mistakenly believe that tawakkul simply means doing nothing and passively waiting for divine intervention. This common misunderstanding often leads to a weakened spiritual connection, rather than the profound trust it is meant to foster. There is a crucial distinction between genuine reliance on Allah and spiritual laziness. True tawakkul is an active, conscious, and deeply engaged state of the heart. It does not imply abandoning all effort. Instead, it entails exerting your utmost effort in any endeavor while simultaneously recognizing that the ultimate outcomes, the results, and the complete control over all things rests solely with Allah. This distinction is far more than an academic point. It fundamentally alters how an individual navigates the world, how they react to obstacles, and how they perceive their own abilities and limitations. The word tawakkul itself carries deep linguistic and theological roots in Arabic, stemming from the root wakala. This root conveys the meaning of entrusting one's affairs to another, of appointing a representative or an agent, or of handing over responsibility. When a Muslim practices tawakkul, they are essentially appointing Allah as their wakil, their ultimate representative and guardian in all matters. This is not a casual delegation. It represents the most profound act of trust a human being can undertake. It involves surrendering one's deepest anxieties and most cherished hopes into the hands of the one who possesses infinite knowledge, absolute power, and boundless mercy. Grasping this linguistic foundation helps one appreciate the immense weight and inherent beauty of what tawakkul truly demands of a believer. The Quran provides a solid foundation for tawakkul, establishing it as a central pillar of the believer's relationship with Allah through several key verses. Surah At-Talaq, for instance, contains the powerful promise that whoever places their trust in Allah, Allah will be sufficient for them. Furthermore, Surah Al-Imran instructs the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, to consult with his companions, make decisions, and then, once a course of action has been resolved, to place his trust in Allah. These verses collectively illustrate tawakkul as an act that follows diligent effort, rather than replacing it. These scriptural passages offer profound implications for how a modern Muslim should approach their work, nurture their relationships, manage their health, and envision their future. The life of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and his companions serves as the ultimate demonstration of tawakkul in practice. One particularly instructive example is the famous hadith concerning a man who inquired whether he should tie his camel or merely trust in Allah. The Prophet wisely advised him to tie it and then trust in Allah. This succinct exchange perfectly encapsulates the entire philosophy of tawakkul. This, along with other examples from the prophetic tradition, reveals how the greatest manifestations of tawakkul in Islamic history were consistently accompanied by tremendous effort, strategic foresight, and practical engagement with reality. For the companions, tawakkul was never an excuse for negligence. Rather, it was the spiritual engine that fueled their extraordinary achievements and resilience. It is vital for each of us to honestly examine where our personal understanding and practice of tawakkul currently stands. Many believers inadvertently adopt a version of tawakkul that is either too passive, leading to inaction and a sense of resignation, or too superficial, where they articulate words of trust but their hearts remain entangled in anxiety and the illusion of personal control. Deepening one's tawakkul is a continuous journey, not a singular decision. This journey commences with an honest acknowledgement of one's current position and any prevailing misconceptions. This self-reflection sets the stage for a sincere and personal engagement with the concept, guiding one towards a more profound and authentic reliance on Allah. Accompanied by tremendous effort, strategic foresight, and practical engagement with reality. For the companions, tawakkul was never an excuse for negligence. Rather, it was the spiritual engine that fueled their extraordinary achievements and resilience. It is vital for each of us to honestly examine where our personal understanding and practice of tawakkul currently stands. Many believers inadvertently adopt a version of tawakkul that is either too passive, leading to inaction and a sense of resignation, or too superficial, where they articulate words of trust but their hearts remain entangled in anxiety and the illusion of personal control. Deepening one's tawakkul is a continuous journey, not a singular decision. This journey commences with an honest acknowledgement of one's current position and any prevailing misconceptions. This self-reflection sets the stage for a sincere and personal engagement with the concept, guiding one towards a more profound and authentic reliance on Allah. Authentic tawakkul demands a delicate balance, a harmonious interplay between sincere supplication and diligent exertion. It is not merely a verbal affirmation of belief, but a state of being that permeates one's thoughts, intentions, and actions. Consider the farmer who plants seeds. He does not scatter them haphazardly and then simply pray for a bountiful harvest. Instead, he prepares the soil with care, selects the best seeds, waters them diligently, and protects them from pests. After exhausting all his physical means, he then turns to the divine, trusting that Allah will allow his efforts to bear fruit. His trust is not a substitute for his labor. Rather, it is the spiritual bedrock that sustains him through the uncertainties of agriculture, providing solace in times of drought and gratitude in times of abundance. This practical demonstration of tawakkul illustrates that reliance on Allah does not negate the responsibility of human effort, but rather elevates it, infusing it with purpose and a sense of divine partnership. Many struggle with this balance, often leaning too heavily on one side or the other. Some fall into the trap of excessive reliance on their own abilities, convinced that their success is solely a product of their intellect, hard work, and strategic planning. They might utter phrases like "Inshallah" out of habit, but their inner disposition reveals a deep-seated belief in their own agency as the primary determinant of outcomes. This mindset, while seemingly proactive, can lead to immense pressure, burnout, and a profound sense of despair when plans inevitably go awry, for it denies the overarching power of the Creator. It fosters a fragile ego, prone to arrogance in success and utter devastation in failure, as there is no higher power to whom they genuinely surrender the ultimate outcome. Conversely, others may succumb to a passive interpretation of tawakkul, believing that once they have made a supplication, they need not exert any further effort. They might sit idly, waiting for divine intervention to miraculously solve their problems, neglecting the very means that Allah has placed at their disposal. This passive approach often masks a form of spiritual laziness or a misunderstanding of divine wisdom, which typically operates through established laws of cause and effect. Such individuals might find themselves in perpetual states of stagnation, attributing their lack of progress to a perceived absence of divine favor, when in reality they have failed to activate the mechanisms of effort and engagement that are themselves acts of worship and expressions of trust. True tawakkul empowers action. It does not paralyze it. It is the conviction that every sincere effort, no matter how small, is seen and valued by Allah, and that the ultimate outcome rests in His hands, providing both motivation and peace. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, exemplified the perfect embodiment of tawakkul. His life was a testament to meticulous planning, tireless effort, and unwavering reliance on Allah. When migrating from Mecca to Medina, he did not simply walk out of his house and expect divine protection without taking precautions. He planned his route meticulously, sought refuge in a cave, employed a guide, and arranged for food and water. Yet, despite all these elaborate preparations, his heart was entirely tethered to Allah. When his companion Abu Bakr expressed fear in the cave, saying, "If any of them were to look down at his feet, they would see us," the Prophet second calmly responded, "What do you think of two with whom Allah is the third?" This profound statement encapsulates the essence of tawakkul, exerting every possible human effort, yet simultaneously having absolute certainty that the ultimate protection and outcome resides solely with Allah. His efforts were a means, but his trust was the end. This nuanced understanding is crucial for deepening one's tawakkul. It requires a continuous internal dialogue and an honest assessment of one's motivations. Are we working hard because we believe our efforts alone will guarantee success? Or are we striving diligently as an act of worship, understanding that our role is to exert ourselves in the best possible way, leaving the results to the one who controls all things? This distinction, subtle as it may seem, fundamentally alters our psychological and spiritual landscape. When we operate with authentic tawakkul, the pressure of outcome is lifted from our shoulders. We are freed from the paralyzing fear of failure and the intoxicating arrogance of success, because both are ultimately from Allah. Our focus shifts from controlling results to perfecting our efforts, aligning our intentions with divine pleasure, and accepting whatever outcome unfolds with grace and contentment. Deepening tawakkul also necessitates a profound understanding of Allah's attributes. Knowing that Allah is Al-Razak, the provider, Al-Hakim, the wise, Al-Alim, the all-knowing, and Al-Qadir, the all-powerful, instills a deep sense of security and trust. If we truly believe that Allah is the ultimate provider, then our anxiety about sustenance diminishes. If we are convinced of His perfect wisdom, then even adverse circumstances can be viewed as opportunities for growth and lessons in disguise. This intellectual understanding, however, must transcend mere conceptual knowledge and permeate the heart, transforming into a lived reality. It is not enough to simply recite these names. One must reflect on their implications for one's own life and circumstances. When faced with a difficult decision, for instance, a person with deep tawakkul will seek counsel, research options, and pray for guidance. But ultimately, they will submit their heart to Allah's wisdom, trusting that whatever path unfolds is the best for them, even if it does not initially conform to their own desires. Furthermore, cultivating tawakkul involves consciously detaching the heart from worldly attachments. This does not mean abandoning the world or neglecting one's responsibilities, but rather recognizing that all possessions, positions, and people are temporary trusts from Allah. When our hearts are overly attached to these transient things, our reliance on them can eclipse our reliance on their Creator. The fear of losing wealth, status, or loved ones can become a source of immense anxiety, pulling us away from genuine trust in Allah. By understanding that everything is ultimately from Allah and will return to Him, we can cultivate a sense of detachment that frees us from the shackles of worldly worries. This detachment allows us to engage with the world wholeheartedly, yet with a light heart, knowing that our ultimate security and solace lie with Allah alone. This spiritual detachment is not apathy, it is liberation. It is the ability to invest fully in our endeavors while simultaneously being prepared to accept any outcome, understanding that Allah's plan is always superior to our own. This profound understanding transforms our relationship with both success and failure, allowing us to navigate life's inevitable ups and downs with a resilient spirit and a tranquil heart. A deep and living knowledge of Allah's attributes forms the essential pillar supporting tawakkul. Without it, genuine reliance on the divine remains abstract. If one does not genuinely believe that Allah is Al-Alim, the all-knowing, fully aware of every intricate detail of their situation, then trusting Him becomes a mere intellectual exercise rather than a profound act of the heart. Similarly, if there is no true conviction that Allah is Al-Qadir, the all-powerful, capable of altering any circumstance, then the very foundation of relying on Him feels uncertain. We are guided through a meditation on these divine names and attributes most relevant to tawakkul, including Al-Wakil itself, the trustee, the one who manages all affairs with perfect wisdom and meticulous care. Understanding these names transcends mere intellectual apprehension. It demands an experiential realization, feeling their reality resonate within the heart. For this is where the journey of true tawakkul truly begins. The second vital pillar involves a correct and comprehensive understanding of qadar, the divine decree. The profound connection between tawakkul and belief in qadar is undeniable and deeply intertwined. When an individual truly internalizes that nothing occurs in the vast expanse of the universe except by Allah's infinite knowledge and explicit permission, that every single event has been meticulously recorded in Allahul Mahfuz, the preserved tablet, their entire perception of uncertainty undergoes a radical transformation. This belief, when properly understood, does not lead to a resigned fatalism, but rather ushers in an unparalleled sense of profound peace. The believer who grasps the true essence of qadar knows with unwavering certainty that no calamity can ever befall them except through Allah's permission, and that embedded within every decree, however challenging it may appear, there lies an ultimate wisdom, even if that wisdom remains veiled from immediate human comprehension. This understanding is not intended to eradicate the natural human experience of grief or difficulty, but rather to firmly anchor the heart in an unshakable certainty, even when the surrounding circumstances are turbulent and fraught with trials. Tawakkul is fundamentally a state of the heart, not merely a statement uttered by the tongue. and this necessitates a specific focus on the heart's role. The heart can be meticulously trained and cultivated to genuinely experience trust, moving beyond a performed or superficial reliance. There exists a significant distinction between a person who merely articulates Tawakkaltu ala Allah and an individual whose heart is truly at rest, deeply tranquil because of their unwavering reliance on Allah. The classical scholars, particularly Ibn al-Qayyim, extensively explored tawakkul as a spiritual station of the heart, one that must be diligently earned through continuous knowledge acquisition, profound reflection, and consistent spiritual practice. We are encouraged to introspect and ascertain whether our tawakkul resides primarily in our words, our thoughts, or truly within the depths of our heart, and to aspire unequivocally toward that deepest, most authentic level of trust. The relationship between tawakkul and hope, specifically the Islamic concept of raja, which signifies hope in Allah's boundless mercy and generosity, is a crucial aspect of this understanding. These two profound qualities, tawakkul and raja, are not merely complementary, but are deeply synergistic. Tawakkul, when devoid of hope, can become cold and mechanical, a form of resigned acceptance rather than a vibrant, living trust that breathes life into one's spiritual journey. However, when tawakkul is accompanied by a genuine, heartfelt hope in Allah's immense generosity and inherent goodness, it blossoms into a truly beautiful and profoundly sustaining spiritual state. The Quran consistently weaves together descriptions of Allah's omnipotence and power with vivid portrayals of His mercy and generosity, serving as a constant reminder to the believer that the one they are placing their trust in is not only infinitely capable, but also deeply loving, caring, and compassionate toward all His servants. A common obstacle that often impedes the development of these essential pillars is the unconscious presence of competing sources of trust within the heart. Many individuals, perhaps without even realizing it, place their deepest trust not in Allah, but rather in their material wealth, their physical health, their relationships, their intellectual prowess, or their social standing. It is important to understand that these competing trusts are not inherently sinful, as it is a natural human inclination to find comfort and security in worldly resources. However, they become spiritually detrimental when they displace or overshadow the paramount trust that should be reserved for Allah alone. The key lies in utilizing these worldly resources while simultaneously knowing, deep within the heart, that they are merely instruments in Allah's hands, never independent sources of security or ultimate well-being. This chapter aims to help each listener identify where their heart's deepest trust currently resides and gently, yet firmly, guide it back toward its rightful and ultimate object, Allah. Consider the person who dedicates their entire life to accumulating vast sums of money. Their waking hours are consumed by financial strategies, market analysis, and the relentless pursuit of more. When faced with a crisis, their immediate thought often turns to their bank balance, their investments, or their ability to generate more income. They might believe that money is the ultimate problem solver, the shield against all misfortunes, and the guarantor of future happiness. While financial prudence is commendable, when this reliance crosses into an absolute, unwavering conviction that money itself holds the power to protect and provide, it becomes a competing trust. The fear of poverty or financial instability can become so overwhelming that it dictates choices, compromises principles, and overshadows the belief that Allah is Al-Razzaq, the ultimate provider. This individual might find themselves in a state of constant anxiety despite their wealth, because true security is not found in numbers on a screen, but in the tranquility of a heart anchored in divine providence. Similarly, we can observe the subtle shift in trust when it comes to physical health. Many invest heavily in diets, exercise regimes, supplements, and regular medical checkups, all of which are beneficial and encouraged. Yet, for some, their sense of security becomes entirely dependent on the robustness of their body or the efficacy of modern medicine. A minor ailment can trigger disproportionate fear, a chronic condition can lead to despair, and the prospect of aging or illness can become a source of profound dread. They might meticulously avoid certain foods, obsessively track every bodily sensation, and view any deviation from perfect health as a catastrophe. While caring for one's body is an act of worship, when the belief takes root that health itself is the ultimate protector against suffering and mortality, rather than a blessing from Allah that can be withdrawn at any moment, it becomes a competing trust. The true believer understands that health is a gift and illness is a test, and in both states, reliance on Allah's wisdom and mercy remains paramount. They seek treatment, but their hope and ultimate peace reside in their Creator, not solely in the strength of their immune system or the skill of their doctor. Relationships, too, can become unintended objects of misplaced trust. A person might derive their entire sense of self-worth, their emotional stability, and their future hopes from a spouse, a parent, a child, or a close friend. The presence of this person brings immense comfort, but their absence, or the threat of their departure, can plunge the individual into profound despondency, or even a crisis of identity. Every decision might be filtered through the lens of maintaining this relationship, sometimes to the detriment of one's own values or spiritual obligations. When a relationship is seen as the sole source of happiness, security, or meaning, rather than a beautiful gift from Allah to be cherished and nurtured, it becomes a competing trust. The pain of betrayal or loss, which is an inevitable part of the human experience, becomes unbearable because the foundation of trust was built on shifting sand rather than an unshakable divine will. True love and companionship are blessings, but the ultimate source of solace and enduring connection lies with Allah, who is Al-Wadud, the most loving. Intellectual prowess offers another fascinating example. Academics, scholars, and those who pride themselves on their intelligence might unconsciously place their deepest trust in their own ability to reason, analyze, and comprehend the world. They believe that with enough knowledge, they can solve any problem, navigate any challenge, and achieve any goal. When confronted with mysteries, uncertainties, or situations beyond their logical grasp, they might experience frustration, doubt, or even a crisis of faith. The inability to intellectually dissect and control every aspect of their existence can lead to arrogance in times of success and deep insecurity in times of failure. While seeking knowledge is a noble pursuit and a divine command, when one's own intellect becomes the arbiter of truth and the primary source of security, it competes with trust in Allah's infinite wisdom and knowledge. The humble seeker of knowledge understands that human intellect is a limited tool, a gift from Allah, and that true understanding often comes through submission to the unseen and reliance on divine guidance. Finally, social standing and reputation can subtly usurp the place of Allah in the heart. Many individuals are driven by a relentless need for approval, recognition, and validation from others. Their choices, their words, and even their appearance are often dictated by what they perceive will garner positive attention or avoid social censure. A promotion, an award, a flattering comment, or widespread acclaim can bring temporary elation, while criticism, public embarrassment, or social isolation can be devastating. The fear of what others think can become a powerful motivator, shaping one's life path and even one's spiritual practices. When the esteem of people becomes more important than the pleasure of Allah, when one's identity is wholly wrapped up in external validation, it signifies a competing trust. The true believer seeks praise from Allah alone, understanding that human opinion is fleeting and ultimately inconsequential compared to the judgment of the Creator. Their sense of worth is derived from their relationship with Allah, not from the fickle perceptions of society. Recognizing these competing trusts is the first crucial step towards deepening tawakkul. It requires honest introspection, a willingness to examine our deepest fears and hopes, and an acknowledgement of where our hearts truly find their anchor. Only by consciously identifying these alternative sources of security can we begin the gentle yet profound process of reorienting our hearts back to Allah, the one true source of all provision, protection, health, love, knowledge, and honor. This process is not about abandoning worldly means or relationships, but about recalibrating our internal compass so that even as we engage with the world, our ultimate reliance and hope remain firmly fixed on the divine. It is a journey of understanding that everything we possess, every relationship we cherish, every faculty we employ, is ultimately a trust from Allah, to be used in His way, and never to be mistaken for the ultimate provider or protector. Life for the believer is punctuated by trials that serve as profound tests of faith. The Quran in Surah Al-Baqarah states that Allah will inevitably test believers with fear, hunger, and a loss of wealth, lives, and fruits. In these moments, true character and the depth of one's trust are revealed, and those who respond with patience and unwavering reliance are promised glad tidings. Many grapple with the misconception that hardship signifies divine displeasure, yet Islamic tradition offers a different perspective. The most severely tested individuals were the prophets, followed by those closest in righteousness. Difficulty, therefore, is not abandonment, but often a sign of divine attention, an opportunity for elevation and a means of purification. One of the most profound challenges to tawakkul arises when sincere prayers appear unanswered. A believer might pour out their heart in dua, take all necessary practical steps, diligently maintain worship, yet the desired outcome remains elusive. This period of waiting, of perceived silence, can be incredibly taxing on the spirit, shaking the foundations of trust. It is crucial to understand that Allah's response to dua manifests in various forms, rooted in His infinite wisdom and mercy. Sometimes He grants precisely what was requested. At other times, He replaces it with something far better, something the supplicant, in their limited understanding, could not have foreseen. Often, the reward for that earnest supplication is stored for the hereafter, a treasure awaiting them in a realm of true justice. Embracing these three facets of divine response transforms the experience of an apparently unanswered prayer from a crisis of faith into a profound deepening of one's trust, recognizing that Allah's plan transcends immediate gratification and human comprehension. Financial hardship presents another potent arena where tawakkul is put to the ultimate test, creating tension between practical action and trusting Allah's provision. The story of Prophet Ibrahim, peace be upon him, offers an unparalleled illustration. He was commanded to leave his wife Hajar and their infant son Ismail in the desolate valley of Mecca with meager provisions. His act was one of absolute submission and trust. When Hajar, faced with such stark vulnerability, asked if this was Allah's command, and he confirmed it, her response echoed the pinnacle of tawakkul. She declared that if it was Allah's command, then He would not let them be lost. This profound declaration, made under conditions of extreme material scarcity, underscores that true reliance on Allah means understanding that even in the absence of conventional means, His provision is assured. For the modern believer navigating job loss, economic uncertainty, or genuine material need, this narrative serves as a powerful reminder that while effort is required, the ultimate source of sustenance and security remains with the divine. Illness and physical suffering represent yet another profound test of tawakkul. Islam views illness not merely as misfortune, but as both a trial and a mercy. Prophetic teachings reveal that no fatigue, illness, sorrow, sadness, hurt, or distress befalls a believer, not even the prick of a thorn, except that Allah expiates some of their sins through it. This perspective reframes physical suffering, imbuing it with spiritual meaning and situating it within a larger context of divine care and purification. It does not diminish the very real pain and discomfort of illness, but it offers a framework for understanding it as a means of drawing closer to Allah and purifying the soul. It is also crucial to recognize that seeking medical treatment is not a contradiction of tawakkul, but rather an embodiment of it. Utilizing the means that Allah has provided in the world, whether through medicine, skilled practitioners, or scientific advancements, is itself an act of trust in His wisdom, acknowledging that He has placed remedies and solutions within creation for humanity to discover and employ. When the heart is overwhelmed by a test and tawakkul feels distant, a structured approach rooted in spiritual practices can provide solace and reorientation. It begins with reciting the appropriate du'as for distress, turning to Allah with the specific words of comfort and reliance taught by the Prophet. Simultaneously, increasing the remembrance of Allah through dhikr helps to anchor the heart and mind in His presence, pushing back against the encroaching tide of fear and sadness. Maintaining salah, even when it feels arduous, serves as a consistent connection to the divine, a sacred space where worries can be laid bare. Seeking the company of those who strengthen one's faith, individuals whose steadfastness and wisdom can offer support and perspective, is also invaluable. The objective is not to suppress the natural human response to hardship, but to channel that response toward Allah, rather than allowing it to lead one astray. Tawakkul, in the crucible of real life, is not about the absence of fear or sorrow, it is about the unwavering return to Allah, again and again, even from within the deepest valleys of despair and uncertainty. Consider the profound example of Prophet Yunus, peace be upon him, trapped in the belly of the whale. His situation was one of absolute desolation, cut off from all conventional means of rescue, in the deepest darkness. Yet, in that moment of ultimate helplessness, he did not despair of Allah's mercy. His supplication, "There is no deity except you," exalted are you. Indeed, I have been of the wrongdoers was a pure embodiment of Tawakkul. It was an admission of his own fallibility, a glorification of Allah, and an implicit plea for rescue, all rooted in an unshakable belief in Allah's power and compassion. This is not merely a historical anecdote, it is a timeless lesson in how to respond when all earthly doors seem closed. Our own struggles, though perhaps less dramatic than being swallowed by a whale, often present us with similar feelings of being trapped and overwhelmed. The lesson from Yunus is to turn inward, to turn upward, to acknowledge our weakness and Allah's omnipotence. Furthermore, cultivating tawakkul involves a conscious effort to understand and internalize the attributes of Allah. When we truly grasp that Allah is Al-Razzaq, the provider, our anxieties about sustenance diminish. When we comprehend Al-Shafi, the healer, our fears regarding illness begin to recede. When we reflect on Al-Hafiz, the preserver, a sense of security against harm takes root in our hearts. This is not a superficial intellectual exercise, but a deep, meditative reflection on the 99 names and attributes of Allah, allowing them to permeate our consciousness and reshape our worldview. Each name offers a unique lens through which to view Allah's perfect control and boundless mercy, reinforcing the conviction that He is indeed sufficient for all our needs. This continuous engagement with Allah's attributes transforms abstract belief into a living, breathing reality that informs every decision and calms every fear. Another crucial aspect is the practice of sabr, or patience. Tawakkul and sabr are inextricably linked, two sides of the same spiritual coin. True reliance on Allah requires enduring difficulties with steadfastness, without complaint or resentment, knowing that Allah's decree is always just and ultimately beneficial, even if its wisdom is not immediately apparent. This patience is not passive resignation, it is an active endurance, a conscious choice to remain firm on the path of righteousness despite trials. It means continuing to exert effort, to plan, to work, while simultaneously entrusting the outcome entirely to Allah. The farmer sows the seed, waters it, tends to the soil, but he relies on Allah for the rain, the sun, and the ultimate growth of the crop. His effort is his sabr, and his expectation of a harvest, despite unforeseen variables, is his tawakkul. This active patience is a powerful antidote to the impulsiveness and despair that often accompany hardship. Moreover, a deep understanding of qadar, divine decree, significantly strengthens tawakkul. Recognizing that everything, good or bad, is by Allah's ultimate will, helps to contextualize our struggles. It frees us from the paralyzing what-if scenarios and the self-blame that can cripple our spirits. This does not mean we become fatalistic and abandon effort. Rather, it means we accept what has transpired with grace and move forward with renewed determination, knowing that Allah's plan is unfolding. When an unexpected calamity strikes, instead of questioning "why me?" or dwelling on what could have been done differently, a person with strong tawakkul will say, "Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un." Indeed, to Allah we belong, and to Him we shall return. This profound statement encapsulates acceptance, submission, and a recognition of ultimate ownership, immediately recentering the heart on Allah. It is a declaration that our lives, our possessions, our very beings are on loan from Allah, and their return or alteration is entirely within His prerogative. Finally, cultivating tawakkul involves consciously detaching the heart from worldly attachments, without abandoning the world itself. This is a subtle but profound distinction. It means recognizing that wealth, status, health, and relationships are all temporary provisions, blessings to be appreciated and utilized responsibly, but never to be the ultimate source of our security or happiness. When our hearts are overly attached to these transient things, their loss or threat can shatter our peace. However, when our primary attachment is to Allah, the eternal and ever-present, then the ebb and flow of worldly circumstances become less daunting. We work for our sustenance, we cherish our families, we strive for success, but our inner peace remains anchored in our relationship with the divine. This detachment is not indifference, it is liberation from the anxieties that worldly dependence inevitably brings. It allows us to navigate life's turbulent waters with a calm assurance, knowing that our ultimate refuge is secure. This inner freedom, born from a purified heart, is the sweet fruit of profound tawakkul, a state of being where the soul finds its true home in complete reliance upon its Creator. Intentional dua stands as the primary daily discipline for deepening one's tawakkul, transforming a mere request into an act of profound trust. Every sincere supplication is an acknowledgement of our inherent need and Allah's exclusive power to provide, making dua itself a manifestation of reliance. We are encouraged to cultivate a rich personal dua practice that transcends rote recitation, evolving into a genuine conversation with Allah. The Quran guides us to call upon Allah with humility and in private, prompting us to sit quietly, reflect on our deepest needs and hopes, and present them to Him with the full awareness that He is listening, capable, and willing to respond. This consistent, heartfelt communication builds tawakkul from the inside out, strengthening the spiritual connection that anchors our trust. Following this, dhikr, the remembrance of Allah, serves as a daily tool to anchor the heart in tawakkul. Particular emphasis is placed on the morning and evening adhkar, those specific phrases of remembrance taught by the Prophet, peace be upon him, for recitation at the beginning and end of each day. Many of these adhkar explicitly articulate our reliance on Allah and seek His protection and sufficiency. When one recites, Hasbi Allahu la ilaha illa huwa alayhi tawakkaltu, meaning, Allah is sufficient for me, there is no God but He, upon Him I rely, it is not simply uttering words, it is an active performance of tawakkul, a conscious declaration of trust. To truly benefit, these phrases must be recited with full presence and awareness, understanding their profound meaning, so that dhikr becomes a genuine renewal of trust rather than a mere habitual exercise. A third vital practice involves reflecting on Allah's past provisions and blessings, which naturally builds confidence in His future care. The Quran frequently invites believers to recall Allah's favors as a basis for trusting what He will do. We can adopt a simple journaling practice or engage in daily reflection, identifying specific instances where Allah has provided, protected, or guided us. This act of counting blessings goes beyond simple gratitude. It creates an experiential record of Allah's faithfulness, a reservoir of assurance that the heart can draw upon during times of uncertainty and fear, reinforcing the belief that He who provided before will provide again. Furthermore, reducing attachment to specific outcomes emerges as a crucial daily spiritual discipline. A significant impediment to tawakkul is the human tendency to cling so tightly to desired results that any deviation feels catastrophic. This calls for the Islamic concept of zuhd, often translated as detachment or asceticism, but here understood as the practice of holding worldly outcomes loosely rather than gripping them tightly. This does not imply indifference to results or a lack of effort towards goals. Instead, it cultivates the internal freedom to declare, I have done my part, and the outcome belongs to Allah. Practical exercises for developing this quality include consciously releasing attachment to specific outcomes after making dua and taking action, trusting that Allah's plan is ultimately superior to our own desires. The role of community and righteous companionship is indispensable in sustaining and deepening tawakkul. Tawakkul is not solely a private spiritual journey, it is nurtured and supported within the community of believers. When surrounded by others who speak of Allah with trust and confidence, who share stories of divine intervention, and who remind each other of Quranic promises and prophetic examples, one's own tawakkul is significantly strengthened. We are encouraged to be intentional about our spiritual conversations, to seek out and cultivate friendships with individuals whose faith elevates our own, and to become a source of tawakkul-strengthening encouragement for others in our community. In this way, tawakkul flourishes and grows in the fertile soil of a faithful community, becoming a shared journey of reliance and peace. Consider the early Muslim community in Mecca, facing relentless persecution and seemingly insurmountable odds. Their steadfastness was not merely individual piety, but a collective resilience forged through mutual support and unwavering belief in Allah's ultimate victory. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, himself sought counsel and comfort from his companions, demonstrating that even the most elevated of souls benefits from the embrace of a supportive community. When Abu Bakr accompanied the Prophet during the Hijrah, a journey fraught with peril, their shared trust in Allah was a bedrock, reinforcing each other's resolve in the face of imminent danger. This historical example vividly illustrates how tawakkul can be a shared shield, protecting and empowering individuals within a collective. Furthermore, the communal prayers and gatherings, like the weekly Jumu'ah, serve as powerful reminders of our interconnectedness and shared purpose. Listening to a khutbah, a sermon, that emphasizes reliance on Allah, witnessing the collective prostration, and feeling the unity of the congregation, all contribute to a heightened sense of tawakkul. These acts are not just rituals, they are immersive experiences that recalibrate our perspectives, pulling us away from individual anxieties and grounding us in the larger reality of divine providence and collective strength. The stories shared in these spaces, whether from the Quran, the Sunnah, or contemporary experiences, become living testaments to Allah's power and mercy, embedding themselves in our hearts and reinforcing our own capacity for trust. Moreover, the act of giving and receiving advice within the community, especially regarding spiritual matters, is a cornerstone of strengthening tawakkul. When a sister shares her struggle with a difficult situation and another offers words of encouragement, reminding her of Allah's promise to never burden a soul beyond its capacity, that exchange itself is a manifestation of tawakkul in action. It is a practical application of the principle of mutual admonition and support, where faith is not just preached but actively practiced and transmitted. This continuous cycle of encouragement and shared wisdom creates an ecosystem where doubt finds less fertile ground, and trust in Allah is constantly watered and nourished. Even in times of personal crisis or tribulation, the presence of a caring community can be a lifeline. Knowing that others are making dua for you, that they are offering practical help, or simply providing a listening ear, alleviates the burden and allows one to focus on their reliance on Allah. This collective empathy and assistance prevent isolation, which can often be a breeding ground for despair and a weakening of tawakkul. Thus, the community acts as a powerful buffer against the challenges of life, enabling individuals to maintain their spiritual equilibrium and a firm reliance on their Creator, even when their personal resources feel depleted. The shared journey of faith, therefore, is not just a pleasant ideal, but a vital mechanism for the cultivation and enduring strength of tawakkul. A profound inner peace characterizes the person who has genuinely internalized tawakkul, a peace that resonates deeply with the Quranic concept of tumanina. This tranquility of the heart, which springs from the constant remembrance of Allah, is directly connected to the unwavering trust a believer places in their Creator. While such an individual is not immune to life's difficulties or the sting of pain, they carry within them a settled quality of heart, a quiet assurance that remains unshaken regardless of external circumstances. This inner calm is far from complacency or numbness. Rather, it is the deep, quiet confidence of one who understands that the very one who orchestrates the vast universe also holds them tenderly within his care. It is a feeling that many might have glimpsed in fleeting moments of profound serenity, a state to which one can aspire to make a permanent dwelling within the soul. Tawakkul fundamentally reshapes one's relationship with the future, a primary source of human anxiety in an increasingly unpredictable world. A person living with genuine tawakkul approaches what lies ahead with a distinct perspective. They meticulously plan, diligently work, and prepare to the best of their ability, yet they are not consumed by dread concerning potential misfortunes. Their understanding is rooted in the knowledge that whatever unfolds has already been filtered through the boundless knowledge and wisdom of Allah. The Prophet, peace be upon him, beautifully articulated this when he advised Ibn Abbas, stressing that if the entire nation were to conspire to benefit him, they could only do so with what Allah had already decreed, and if they intended harm, they could only inflict what Allah had already written for him. Internalizing this profound truth is one of the most liberating insights in all of Islamic teaching. Furthermore, tawakkul profoundly alters one's interactions with others, specifically by mitigating the spiritual malady of seeking human approval, fearing judgment, or placing undue hope in what people can provide. The Quran speaks of those who strive in Allah's path without fearing the blame of blamers, illustrating how a heart anchored in divine trust is freed from the exhaustive and ultimately fruitless endeavor of managing perceptions and securing human validation. This liberation does not render one indifferent or antisocial. Instead, it empowers them to engage with others from a place of genuine love and selfless service, rather than from a position of need or anxiety. Ultimately, the journey of tawakkul culminates not merely in a more serene earthly existence, but in a deeper, more intimate connection with Allah Himself. The astonishing and beautiful reality is that Allah loves those who place their trust in Him, a truth powerfully affirmed in Surah Al-Imran. When a believer embodies tawakkul, they are not simply adopting a beneficial coping mechanism. They are performing an act that actively draws the love of the Creator of all existence towards them. This truth bears contemplation, inviting one to perceive tawakkul not as a burdensome spiritual duty, but as a direct pathway into the very love and closeness of Allah. This journey of deepening tawakkul is a lifelong endeavor, marked by both moments of profound trust and periods of doubt and fear, both intrinsic to the human experience of faith. What truly matters is the consistent direction of the heart, the repeated turning back towards Allah, the conscious choice of trust over fear, and the ongoing cultivation of one's relationship with Al-Wakil, the perfect trustee of all affairs. We ask Allah to grant us and all listeners the precious gift of genuine tawakkul, to allow our hearts to find ultimate rest in His boundless sufficiency.